Jose. I'm managing director for Codurance in Spain. I've also been working for a very long time in consultancy and software development. And one of the things that I've done in the past is precisely this, right? Like helping teams improve and helping organizations adopt new practices, engineering practices, new processes, et cetera, et cetera. So there's quite a bit of experience around that. But it is a topic that I find very engaging, I'm very passionate about it, so I could be talking about this stuff forever. So yeah, just let me know when I'm going overboard with it. So today's meetup, yeah, is the last one of a series that we've been doing on technical coaching, right? And the topic for today is adopting technical coaching in the organization. Yeah, so we're going to be covering a few topics, like why I think technical coaching fails in a lot of organizations, for instance, is one of those. Why is that? No, like what are the problems that it has? Why it is? No, and what are the root causes? And then some tips maybe on how to approach it. As always, these talks or these sessions now are more like a conversation. So I encourage you to ask questions and just participate. We learn from each other on this, so feel free to shoot any questions whenever you have them. Yeah, and I think that's it. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Yeah, so tell me something. Do you have any? Have you tried to let's say implement something like this inside an organization, or have you, as a technical coach or as a team lead maybe that is coaching your team, etc., have you tried to, let's say, influence more of the organization than just your team? Let's start there. It's okay, I have like an hour. Yeah. I can wait for an hour. So no,
I think you will have to teach us.
No, I think it's very common, no, that that you've tried in the past to do something like this, right? Like if you're a technical coach, maybe you try to influence a team that you were working with. If you were an agile coach, similar. If you were an architect, you may have tried, no, to influence other teams. That, like, all of these things are quite common, no, in that sense. Like you've been taking on some of these things that or these tools that we've been talking about, no, and applying them. Yeah. Now, working within your team is relatively easy, but when you start going outside of your team, you start finding lots of other problems. Yeah, Arturo, nice to see you, by the way. So, great. So, what is let's say, the main issues, or what are the main issues that you think an organization is trying to solve, yeah, when trying to adopt technical coaching? John, this is an easy question, right? Like, what is it that technical coaching solves for the organization from your perspective? Or even from your team, it's fine, it's similar.
I think adopt the best practice, no, a good practice to be more effective, no, I think.
All right, so that's one area, right? Like you're trying to upskill people, right? You're trying to improve the way that they work, the way that they perform. Sometimes, it's about the process itself. Sometimes it's about the practices that they're using. Yeah. Sometimes it's about the quality of the code. No, but in general, you're looking for things like, can we get faster delivery? Right? Can we have less bugs? No, those are the reasons why someone would try to bring in a technical coach. Correct? What do you think? Sound familiar? Yeah. There is also there's also an aspect, of retention, right? Or cultural, a cultural aspect, right? Which is, okay, we are investing in our people, we want them to be growing, and if they're growing, they will stay longer with us, and they'll build better product, like they'll be more motivated. All these things are in there, right? Yeah, do we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do people then usually try to solve this problem? Like if you're an organization, how does it usually happen? Well, the normal thing, would be for you to, for instance, try to hire a technical coach, bring it into your team, have it, I don't know, pair with some people there, maybe once a week, maybe you will hire them to do some sort of training, like a 2-day training, and you bring everyone in, and they teach whatever TDD or whatever practice. No, does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, well, if you do a Scrum, for example, the companies contract an agile coach, no? For example.
Yeah. But that's usually the format, right? Like you hire someone who has the technical skills, that's going to be working with your team, and like pairing with them and potentially upskilling.
Yeah.
This sounds great, right? Like this sounds, relatively simple. I hire someone, it's relatively cost effective, no? Because I pay them for, I don't know, coming 1 day a week, something along those lines. Yeah. They're working with one or more teams. Yeah. And they're helping me do this upskilling, this kind of stuff. Now, what is the problem with that? Have you seen that working, by the way? Like, have you seen that in action before? If you can write on the chat if you don't have audio.
Yeah, and by the way, you can comment in Spanish if you prefer, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Arturo has the hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this kind of example a little bit related with an agile coach, not so technical coach, but at least some coach focused on delivering the agile ways of working and methodologies, maybe. But I guess what the idea that I will share is kind of extendable to other aspects. Is like maybe technical role is missing somehow the daily context of the team, the daily pains the team is suffering, the how they, I don't know, discover different insights, how they face these insights, why they made some decisions.
You hit the nail on the head with that, right? So a lot of these approaches, they are about delivering content. Or if they are working with the team, like in the case of training, it's about delivering content. In the case of the agile coach or technical coach that comes and works with the team, is about upskilling at the individual level, right? So a lot of the times they're working through pairing and this kind of stuff, right? And this on paper sounds great, but it has a lot of issues, and for me is one of the main problems that this kind of approach has. Because upskilling, the first thing is that upskilling and delivery, which is usually what people sell, like the technical coach is going to come in, the team is going to continue delivering, and they're going to be upskilling as they deliver. So that's the first thing. But those two goals are competing goals. In order to improve your skill, a lot of the time you have to reduce your output, right? Like you will go slower because you're learning a new thing, or you're changing the way that you are delivering the software, or you're having to deal with the legacy that or the stuff that you have to change. Delivery is all about how can I do this faster, like how can I get this done effectively, but I want it now, right? And the problem with that is that then you end up with the technical coach not having time to work with the people, because they are focused on the delivery, or you find that whatever changes, they're always being kind of like put down in the list of priorities. People don't have the focus to work on the things that they need to work. So that's one aspect of that. Then The other thing that is quite interesting is that it takes a very long time to upskill. Yeah. So if you start working like this, like I'm pairing a little, let's say you have a team that is working with 5 people. You're working with a team that has 5 people. Yeah. And I pair a little bit with you, and then another day, like I basically dedicate out of my day or 2 days or whatever time I've been hired to be there for. Yeah. Which is already an issue. I'm splitting my day maybe into 5 people, 6 people. Maybe I there's one person that I cannot dedicate time, and maybe next time I'll be doing that. So it takes a very long time to upskill someone that way. Yeah. But also the impact that you see, and we talked about this when we talked about the ROI for technical coaching and so on, the impact will take a very long time as well to be able to, for you to be able to see it. Right? So that's another thing that is flawed in this approach, right? Then there's also, organizations are changing all the time. So your team is now 5 people. Tomorrow, a new person comes in. The day after tomorrow, someone goes on holidays or they leave the company, etc. So you constantly, all of that effort that you're putting into that, it's kind of changing all the time. You're constantly having to restart, right? You have to put people again in context or reteach them things that you've already taught some other members, right? So that's another big issue. Yeah. Now, you see where I'm going with this. It seems like technical coaching doesn't work, right? That's you could interpret all of this like technical coaching then doesn't work, right? Is not necessarily the case. We will see a bit more, but what I'm trying to show you here is what are the problems that this ideal solution that people think is going to save them from writing back code, etc. All the problems that it has, right? Another area with this is that when you compare it to solutions like training, right? Like I can put people in a room, I teach them TDD, and from there on, they know TDD, right? Kind of like Neo in the Matrix. I know Kung Fu, and now I can. That's not the way that works. Why is it not the way that it works? Like, what's wrong with that approach?
You probably have to tailor it to the needs of that particular situation.
It is not tailored. This is part of the problem.
Okay.
It is not tailored to the context, of the team. And it's also not tailored to create the proficiency, because proficiency a lot of the times requires you to practice. And all the time that you have is, one day you sit in the room, you do the 4 katas that I asked you to do, and then that's it. That tomorrow you go to your project that is completely different, and you're having to apply what you learned in an environment that was completely out of your regular environment, and now you're left trying to fit the pieces where they go, and with quite a big gap, especially because you still don't have the proficiency. When you do a training, you can get the vocabulary, you can get some technique, but you don't get the proficiency, right? Like the ability to do it, at the same degree, let's put it like that you do the stuff that you were already doing, right? Like the way that you were already working, right? So one last aspect of this is that you end up, and this talks to the need for a cultural change and this kind of stuff, right? Like you may start working with the team and you may start adopting all this stuff, but when people improve, let's say that you're working with this 5-people team or 2 teams or whatever, right? You will find people who are more, let's say, proactive, or they're more into it. Yeah, they like it for whatever reason, or they kind of are aligned with what you're trying to do, so they learn really quickly. They put all, they're the ones that are getting the most out of the effort that you're putting in there. And then what happens? The rest of the organization is not changing at the same speed as that person is changing. So what happens? What's the typical thing that happens?
Arturo, go away. Go on.
They leave. They leave.
Yeah, they do not feel that connected to the training, right?
Exactly. they are now more marketable because they've acquired all of these skills that you invested on them for, right? Like because they wanted to, yeah. But their context or the place where they are, no, doesn't change at the same speed. And then they get frustrated. And then they start looking for another job. So in the end, it becomes this bag of this black hole of money, right? Like you're paying for this stuff that's supposed to give you, so you're not seeing the return because it takes a very long time. And then at the same time, people are leaving. You hired technical coaches to kind of help you with the cultural aspect, to retain people. And then the best ones, the ones that were the most motivated, is the ones that are leaving. No?
Yeah, it can be. It looks almost like if it's counterproductive from that point of view, right? At first glance.
Okay. Yeah. So we've been doing this for a very long time, and these are the same problems that we've found in the past. Yeah. Luckily, there are ways to deal with this that solve the issue, right? As an organization, there is a way to make your return on investment or something like this upskilling and so on, work for you. Yeah, you don't have to fall into these pitfalls. And if you're a technical coach that's trying to adopt it into it, you need to be very aware of those things so that you can tackle them beforehand as well. Yeah. So another thing that goes wrong with something like this is, okay, let's say that you're not going to be doing this at the individual level. You're going to be doing this as, you have support from the organization to do it. Yeah. And you want to make this transformation. Let's say you want to create this culture of excellence inside the organization, right? Like how are we going to do that? Well, that is already a challenge in itself, even if it's not technical, even if it's not practice and so on. There's actually many reasons why transformation efforts fail. Yeah. And I have actually, there's some research done on this. If you look for an article called Why Transformation Efforts Fail by John P. Cotter, it was published in, I think it was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, in the Harvard Business Review. You'll find a lot more info on this. But basically, there are a bunch of factors that work against you when you're trying to do something like this. Let's go over them to see, what are some of the reasons as well that this fails. Yeah. The first thing is lack of let's say a great enough sense of urgency, right? And we talked about this a little bit before, right? When people's priority is completely different, right? Like you're expecting them to be upskilling, but at the same time, the priority is delivering, right? Not only the people in the team, because the people in the team may want to do this, yeah, but they have someone else that is asking them to deliver constantly, right? Or just reinforcing this message that, the priority is somewhere else, yeah? So this is the first aspect that kind of breaks things down. Yeah. If you want this to be useful in the organization, if you want it to be adopted, you need to create sense of urgency. Yeah. At all levels, not just in the team. How do you think we create sense of urgency at all levels?
You wonder? Anyone?
Any guess? Any guesses?
I think maybe Natasha is asking at the chat if you could.
I cannot see the chat. 1 second.
Can't translate it.
No, that was to the previous topic.
The previous one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Often people that coach later have no access to decision making to actually adopt the approach. Yeah, that's also true. It's part of that frustration that I was talking about. No, where people are improving, no, but then there's no support from the organization. They get frustrated and they leave. Yeah. So sense of urgency, right? Well, a common mistake is that people are not able to transmit or understand why it is important, yeah, or why it is necessary to make these changes. it is often seen as something secondary. Yeah. So one of the things that you can do as a technical coach, if you're helping with the adoption, is to create what we call a case for change. Yeah. Where you go and you look at things like, you know, how many mistakes are we making because we don't have the right level of quality or we don't have the right practices in place? How much is this costing the organization today? Yeah. What are all the threats that we have in the market? No, what are our competitors doing? Right? What is the tendency? Where is the market going? Like either the job market or, you know, the IT market in general, no, the solutions where you are. Like you start looking at the context that you're working with, and you start giving visibility, yeah, to that context, yeah, with data. I remember one example was we were working with this team, no, and one of the first things that we said is, okay, so why do you want to do it? No, you know, people are asking for it. Okay, let's look at, you know, what's in it for you, no, as an organization, what will benefit you? How many bugs are you getting, you know, every day, every month, or whatever, right? What's the tendency for that? How many of those are you closing? Yeah, what's the ratio open versus close? Is it going up? Are you you know, like are the bugs multiplying, or is it going down? What are the areas that are creating more bugs for you or more problems with your customers? How much is that costing you? And then when you start having those conversations, which are not technical conversations, they're not about whether you're doing TDD or whatever. No, they're about we are losing money or we are missing opportunities, or, you know, it's very painful to do certain things, or our users hate us, no, kind of thing. So when you start having those things, then you can start creating that sense of urgency. The same for the team. No, sometimes the team is also quite complacent, no, and they don't see a reason to change things, no? So what could be a good approach, let's say, to try to create sense of urgency in the team?
Well, you have to be probably a good communicator to explain the problem, right? To explain what you're trying. They have to be, first of all, knowledgeable that there is a problem.
Yeah. Again, sometimes, yeah, it's about giving visibility to things, right? To show them a mirror, so to speak, no, for them to see what is really happening, no? There was this case where we looked at comments from the users, yeah, in the App Store that were complaining about the application. This is useless, it doesn't work. When I write this on the chat, you know, the message come out of order, blah blah blah, like there's tons of things, no? And then showing that to the developers, for instance. Yeah, there's also a way of turning this into a challenge. Right now we take a month to deliver a feature, or 2 weeks to deliver a feature. What if we wanted to do it in 1 week? What will we need to change? What if we wanted to do it continuously? What if we wanted to just deliver features as we finish them, instead of having to wait for a release train or something along those lines? Yeah. Another common problem has to do with the vision and under communicating that vision, right? So a lot of the times people want to bring a technical coach, but they don't have a vision of what it is that they want to do. We're doing it, oh yeah, you know, to improve, but to improve what? No, what is it that you want to achieve? And also, is it compelling enough? Is this something that people would get behind? No, is it no, or is it about getting more money? No, you know what I mean? Like, are you focusing on things that people can get behind, like quality or whatever, right? Things that are more inspirational. No, are you communicating that enough? Sometimes it's, you know, we're going to do a launch. Oh, from now on, you know, total quality, you know, 0 bugs, whatever, you know, mantra you have. But then, you do that session with that presentation, you know, the CTO or CEO, explains to everyone they want to do, and that's it. That's the last time you hear about this thing. One meeting out of, a ton of other meetings that you have throughout the year, right? So communicating, having a clear vision and having a constant communication needs to be something that is part of everyday communication, is something that is important. And why do you think is important? Yeah, too. By the way, you don't have to raise your hand. You can just jump in.
Okay.
Anytime.
Just in case, I don't want to interrupt anyone. That's right. But yeah, at least for me, what makes sense doing that is that you clearly give the team the purpose of why are they doing things, and people, or at least my thinking here is, people knowing why they are doing things, it gives more value to trust in what they are doing, or maybe better say, what's the new thing they are willing or they are going to try, and what's the purpose behind this new decision.
Yeah, they can connect with it. They can understand the why, and they have enough information to sometimes even make their own decisions and be aligned, to be aligned to that, right? If you understand the why, or the intention or the purpose behind it, then when you're acting, you can align your actions to that why that we are all working towards. Nobody needs to be telling you what to do. Yeah. So there are other points here, things like removing impediments. One typical thing that happens sometimes is oh, we want total quality, etc. Or we want to do TDD and people to know how to refactor, etc. But then in your selection process, you're not looking at any of those things, right? So the people that are coming in, they may know Java, or they may know, but they may be doing the same thing for 10 years, without having learned anything, without having the skills that you're looking for, right? So that's an impediment that needs to be addressed. Yeah. So removing certain impediments, that the way that you reward people. Yeah, that could also be imagine if you're rewarding people for lines of code written. No,
You're going to have a lot.
What are you gonna get? You're gonna get lines of code when in reality, somewhere that is complex, that is bloated, that is that is hard to maintain. Yeah. So all of these things are part of that. There's another aspect which is, I think, is quite interesting when you're trying to adopt this, which is the creation of a strong enough guiding coalition, right? When we talk about a coalition, we're talking about a group of people that have the right mix of things like authority, leadership, expert knowledge, connections in the organization, or engagement in the organization, etc. Right? They're good communicators, etc. People that are supporting this vision that you want to push forward. A lot of the times it becomes one person against everyone else. And that is going to wear you off, right? So one of the first things to make sure that that is working, that you're able to perform that job, is to find that coalition that needs to have the right mix of all the things that I mentioned, right? What happens if you only have people who are very good technically, but they don't know how to communicate, or they don't communicate well?
Would you go and hire it, or would you go to search for people that are
no, I mean, what happens if you have in your guiding team, let's say you start working with 2-3 teams, right? And in your guiding thing, you select the people who are very engaged, they're very good technically, but they're not very good communicators. Or they don't have authority, for instance. Doesn't mean that everyone needs to have authority, but it means that within your support team, you need to have the right balance of those things. Because they will not be able to explain the vision to other people. They will not be able to explain the whys or whatever. It will be a problem. You're gonna hit yourself against the wall. There won't be progress there. And that's part of the thing, right? So another area as well is creating quick wins, no, or systematically planning for that measure of progress, right? At the beginning, we mentioned that one of the problems that technical coaching had was, you know, if you're doing it this way, no, where you're pairing with one individual, you know, 1 day a week, you come and you do whatever, right? It's going to take a very long time. So basically, I'm banking on your faith, yeah, that this will work at some point, yeah. I'm not designing it so that when I'm doing this thing, you're already getting results in the short term, in the midterm, and in the long term, right? Long-term results will take, of course, longer, but what can you give me today, right? And this is another common mistake that people have when adopting or trying to put this into the organization, yeah? Then there's things like declaring victory too soon. Oh, we did this refactoring, and that's it, right? Like everything is perfect, everything works. No, now we are agile. No, now we know how to do TDD. What do you think about that? What's the problem here?
You have to be true to yourself, right? You have to be well, now I'm not going to come up with a word, but you have to be like not trying to only look good, but also be in a good position, right?
It's not just, I mean, there could be something like that, right? Like we all want, you know, to be pat on the back. I know we all want to celebrate. That's good. It's a good thing to celebrate as well, yeah. But calling victory too soon, yeah, is a problem, because it's really easy to revert to the old patterns, yeah. So what you're looking for here is, how do I make sure, this is the difference between a change and a transformation, yeah. A change is, okay, we want to do this refactor, yeah. A transformation is, we want to create the system so that this doesn't happen again in the future. Whatever it is that wherever we want to go, we have the skills to move there, right? We have the mindset, we have the ability, we have the capability inside the organization, all of that stuff. No? A lot of the times we finish with, oh yes, we did the refactor, we did this, we cover, we test, and that's it. From now on, we don't have anything to improve. That's another problem, okay? So we just look at a lot of problems that it has. We just look at a lot of reasons why things fail. So how do you end up articulating this in the organization in a way in which you will be able to get the results that you want, in which you will be able to evolve at the speed that you want, yeah? Because if it's one team, that's perfect. But if you're a bank, if you have 1,000 people in your engineering team, individual coaching is not going to cut it up for you, right? Like you need some other way to scale this and to anchor it into the organization and so on, yeah. So do you have any ideas how could that be done? Because so far, if you hear this chat now, if you're watching this video there, it's like technical coaching doesn't work, right? Like that's the overall message here, but it's not necessarily that, right? It's more about the how you need to do it in order for it to work for your organization, right? So tell me, how do you think we could do that? Some ideas.
I would say this one, well, related to something that you already mentioned, but I would say, I would say myself first saying that, assuming that it will take time, it is some problem that you will not be able to solve shortly. But for example, one thing that came to my mind is considering the fact that if you want to change something, also when there's the time when some new people will be joining your company, also you will be focusing on skills, knowledge, values that you want to cherish and foster with this new approach you're looking for. And well, first let them in and then cultivate that well, different approach you want to explore, those different values you want to foster and create there.
Exactly, right? Like the idea is you need to create a system, yeah, something that goes beyond one individual, something that allows you to deal with the organization changing, yeah, and adapting to that change as well, right? And you can put many names to this, right? Like can be you can call it center of excellence, yeah, or something along those lines. But basically you need something that will allow you, to socialize what you need, right? Like the behaviors, the practices, the values, like all of these things that you mentioned, Arturo, right? In order to be able to scale it. Yeah. Someone in the chat was saying one way to do it is, I think it's Natasha, no? One way to do it would be to grow your own coaches in the context. Completely true. So how do you create a system that allows you to grow coaches in the organization? Yeah. Not only that, how do you combine all that? Because all of that works towards the capability building or skill building aspect. Yeah. But if I have to wait until everyone's got the skill, how do I get results? Yeah. So this is what we're going to be looking at, because how can this be organized? And of course, this will depend on the size of your organization and so on, right? But you basically need to work on 3 pillars, right? The delivery, so getting results, so planning for those results, upskilling, creating the proficiency and the capability, yeah, and the scaling part, right? Like how do I embed this how am I able to embed this into the organization? How am I able to scale it to other teams, to 1,000 people, whatever size of company you have? Yeah. So the first thing is the delivery, right? So you need to be able to link whatever it is you're doing in this process or this program, to some strategic objective that you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. One example of objective is growing the organization, right? Let's say you're a startup and you're looking to, I don't know, hire 50% more people this year, yeah, or 100%. You want to grow, you want to double your, so that is part of your plan. Yeah. But if you do that, you're going to have a bunch of problems, because there's no way that you're going to get, I don't know, 100 people to join your organization and they all have the same values that you're looking for, the practices, you understand what I mean? Like you don't, it's very difficult. It's a big challenge, right? So then what you can do is, as part of the growth, we need to create this program in order to ensure that people have a standard way of working, that people have certain, there's a foundational aspect that you have in the organization and it's covered. Yeah. So that's one aspect. Another aspect would be, when you're working on the delivery, would be to focus on particular parts of the system that you're working with, yeah, to improve that. So whatever it is that you're doing, you will apply there. Yeah. So you will get the value of what it is that you're doing faster. Apply to what you want. Yeah. Another thing is basically the outcomes. If it is taking a feature out, etc., that can also be part of that. Yeah. Then you have the upskilling aspect. Yeah. If you're going to work on the upskilling aspect, you need to work, yes, there's some classroom training, but that should be relatively small, right? We talked about this in some other session, right? Like the percentage that, the kind of ideal percentage that you want, right? Like you want people only 10% of the time, if anything, dedicated to the classroom, understanding the theory and maybe doing the essays. You want most of the time applying it and getting feedback from applying it, because that's how they're going to improve faster, right? That's how they're going to get the proficiency, right? That's how they will be able to apply the techniques in the classroom into their context as soon as possible, right? And even I would argue that even that classroom training needs to be more contextualized. Yeah, if you're doing a kata, just yes, it's okay to use FizzBuzz or whatever to illustrate things, but you should probably try to do that as a technical coach, do that with code from their projects, right? So that they can see it in action where they're going to be using it. Yeah. Then there's the organizational evolution aspect of this. Yeah. So one aspect of that is, how do we establish a sustainable learning system? This thing that will allow me to create new coaches in the organization, to introduce the practices that I want to introduce, no? But not only that, continue to introduce that because the organization is changing, no? And if the practices get old, change those practices for, with others, yeah? If new people join the organization, like in the case of growth that I was talking about, no? So what do we do there? Well, the idea here is we need to make something that is scalable, no, something that is flexible, will adapt to what you want, but it will also be part of your organization. And this is where this center of excellence thing that I mentioned before comes in very handy, right? If you have a place where you put teams through, yeah, and they're not only working on the delivery, but they're applying the things they're doing to the delivery, right? And they're going through that, they're learning, yeah, they're applying it, and then they get to a proficiency level that is good enough for them to start teaching others. Then you can scale the system. Yeah. So you start with a team, but the purpose of that team is not to do the improvement on that team alone. Yeah. It's also to make sure that this scales, right? So you identify people within that team that have the right skill sets, etc., and you immediately start putting them to work with the next one. Yeah. And
so it will react retroactively, feed itself, right?
Exactly. So basically, you're creating the next coaches that you're not only improving on that team, you're creating the next coaches that will be improving all the teams. This takes time, and this is not immediate or anything like that, but it will accelerate pretty quickly. Yeah. Because the more you do it, the more people you have available, therefore, the more experience and so on, right? So you're kind of creating that intellectual capital on how to deal with it. Yeah, and how to scale it. Yeah, and it's flexible because again, you maintain, calling it center of excellence, no, but you maintain this knowledge center, no, of how people are supposed to work with this, right? Or what are the practices and so on? What are the learnings? No, you keep all of that. So if one team goes through that and there's some flaw in what you're doing, you can use that, no, to improve the process itself. You don't lose that learning, right? So this is quite important. Yeah.
And just a quick thought here also, perhaps these teams could help also to cure better material to the next batches that will cover the same
exactly. And this is the way that this is the way that, for instance, martial art schools work, where you have people, black belts are teaching brown belts, and brown belts and are teaching blue belts. Like that's kind of like the idea, right? You're multiplying the knowledge, and then it's also easier for you to see where the flaws are, because if someone did not understand the material that you gave them, or what you taught them, etc., you made a mistake there, they will be teaching it wrong, and it will be easier for you to see that person doesn't have the knowledge, right? So then you can come in, adjust, feed that into the process itself, and continue. Okay. The other thing that is interesting here is something that we call the CIP, or Continuous Improvement Program. Yeah, and this is also a framework, but it's a framework which that has a focus on something else, right? If this one was focusing on upskilling, the other one is focusing on the return on investment as soon as possible, right? I want to improve, but I want those improvements to graduate really quickly, no, so that everyone is using them and the product is benefiting from it, and so on and so forth, right? So this takes a different shape. This takes this shape here, right? You have different areas from which you're gathering what these improvements look like. Some of those improvements may be on the product side, maybe process, maybe whatever, right? And then you're filtering and refining what those improvements look like until you get something that is tangible. Yeah, this is, we will need to split from the monolith. We will need to extract the payment system from the monolith to be able to deploy it separately. That has a strategic goal, right? It will allow us to, iterate the rest of the website, because this has to go through certain, security checks, etc. So it takes a very long time. So we can continue evolving the system without that part. No, we can pass all the checks, etc. But it doesn't slow everything down. It has a technical component. It requires certain skills. Yeah. And then once you have all of those initiatives, let's say, for improvement, you can then prioritize them, put them in a backlog and prioritize them. Yeah. And then you start taking from that backlog and creating teams that will work on getting that done. And these teams are applying the practices that you created in that center of excellence, right? So the idea for this is like, it's not like any team, right? Like you don't want the same people, or let's say you don't want to fix this with the same tools, that created the problem in the first place, right? You want people that already have the skill sets, to work in this way. You want them to work on this, get it done. And once it's done, it doesn't finish there. You want them to help spread that throughout the organization. Yeah, this is done through communities of practice. This is done through training. This is done through the Excellence Center. Like you can go and create new material that then gets taught to everyone else in the organization and so on, right? So you're complementing all of this stuff to get results. You're learning from that, and you're feeding it back into the improvement system that you created.
These CIP groups, they will be shown as an example, let's say, to future teams, or
yeah, actually these CIP groups, you mean the teams here, or
yeah,
what
the teams.
So these teams, they're formed for a purpose, right? Like they're there to get something done and then scale it, right? So yes, they are an example in the sense that, they are working the way that you want everyone else to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're kind of opening the path, the kind of like the tip of the spear, and then everyone is easier to jump on board, when
follow the path.
The path is already there, right? Okay. And you can do this with the people that are coming from the Excellence Center, because they already have the skill sets and so on. Yeah. Or you could do this, bring someone external or whatever it is that you want to do, like create a co-source team or whatever. But this is the idea. So you're working on both goals at the same time at an organizational level. You're creating the capability and creating a system that is flexible, adaptable, and creates works towards the culture that you want to create and the behaviors that you want to see. You're creating a system that is continuously inspecting the organization and the areas or the capabilities that you have to bringing new improvement opportunities, execute them, using these practices, and then feed that into the rest of the organization through the Excellence Center again. Yeah, just let's look for an example. We're talking about continuous delivery. What are the best practices for continuous delivery that you have for your organization? Maybe your organization has, 50 different projects, and some are legacy, some are new, some are no. So you pick, you create what that looks like. That initiative may be, you need to be able to do continuous delivery towards Kubernetes, whatever, right? They come, they pick a project, they move that project towards towards the continuous delivery framework. They're kind of creating it as they're doing it, yeah. And once that is done and that project is migrated, what do? They train the team that is going to be supporting them. They create material for the Excellence Center so that other people know how to work in this format. They might create a template or scaffolding for projects. So if you want to create a new project that already uses all this stuff, here's the repo. You just have to clone the repo, adjust a couple of things, and voila, you already have this out of the box. Yeah. So the organization is benefiting really quickly from all of that learning, because it has these two components that basically work together.
So you have, for example, a member of a team, let's say, and it goes it performs a job in the way you want them. Over time, would you allocate more time for that person to be more of a
This will be a
teacher role?
dedicated team. This I think we're mixing things. Right? When I'm talking about the CIP, these people are not necessarily teaching. They're doing delivery.
Yeah.
But they're doing delivery using the skills that you want them to be using. Yeah, the example that I gave, you want them to be defining the architecture or whatever the platform through infrastructure as code, right? And you want them to be using GitLab, whatever it is that you're creating, and you want them to have quality gates that execute your tests automatically. But basically they're using the practices, yeah. But they are migrating this legacy system into this new pipeline, let's put it like this, right? And once they do that, sorry,
but after they finish this work and they finish this project, let's say, would you start allocating some of their time, not all of it, but some of them, into teaching, mentoring, expanding this? Or with the work, let's say
you could,
but
that team, after it finishes the job, it either disbands or goes work on another thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're talking about the individual, I would handle that on the Center of Excellence side of things.
Okay.
Right. Like I would select the people either throughout the organization, and you can do this. We have a process, for instance, for so almost like a recruitment process, for finding people who are good candidates, to be technical coaches. And then you pick those people, put them in the Excellence Center. They do, they either join a team that is going through it, or they receive some specific training plus training for coaching, and then you can start using them in the Excellence Center directly. If you're talking about if you're talking about people who build the thing, they need to create material, but their job is not to deliver that material, that content, right? That is done through the Excellence Center. So basically they would create that content, help someone or some people in the Excellence Center to gather that knowledge and to be able to teach it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like everyone is doing delivery then becomes a coach. That's not the way that it works, right? There are two separate concepts that work very well together, that accelerate very rapidly the learning in the organization and the adoption of the practices that you want in the organization.
Yes, I see. So for example, you could have someone I don't know, create a blog post, let's say, about the experience that some team had, but that person that will make that thing would be part of the Center of Experience, let's say, gathering that new knowledge from the team.
But not
This is-
necessarily. It could be part of this team's job to deliver those things. Like if you need to create, as I mentioned before, some asset, no, that people can, a repository that people can clone, and they'll have a pipeline of certain type, out of the box, and then they can build on top of that. Or a microservice scaffolding, yeah, or some observability for your project, or whatever it is, right? Whatever setup it is, or whatever, that could be part of what that team is doing. Now, how that gets then taught, yeah, to the rest of the organization is you need to use the systems for that, right? So that group of people will teach some people in this excellence center, and then it will stay there. There is not like they're going to stay there teaching it every time. No, you need to find ways to make that more effective, right? But that's the idea. You scale it through the other system, through the learning system. So one system works on getting the return on investment as soon as possible. The other one works in building the capability so that can spread throughout the organization, no? And you have a way to adapt, no, to the context. So to put it in the words that I was using before, this one deals with the change. This one deals with the transformation, right? One is like about getting something done. The other one is about making sure that gets assimilated for the rest of the organization, and we have a mechanism to deal with it in the future.
Okay. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, so that's it. That's all I wanted to cover today. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, and I think we have 1 or 2 minutes before we have to close. But any questions?
Sorry, Jose, only one clarification, because when we start the meeting, we say that this will be the last session, the last meetup, and it's not true, because we have scheduling another one in April 18, and it's not published yet, but soon we have ready the link to register for the
Okay. Okay. So good. With that note in mind, are there any questions? Anything you want to go over?
Just a quick thought here from my side. It's about what's the period or the frequency that the material is checked, or be sure that it's still up to date and useful to keep feeding back again.
Every iteration. Now you're talking about the material in the Excellence Center and this kind of stuff, no?
Yeah, and also what you said about the team creating, for example, as you said, maybe the scaffolding of the new microservices that could save some time and could add some knowledge to the coming teams as well. Maybe is this scaffolding, or is this the way that this scaffolding is created or checked, somehow reviewed with this periodicity, or I don't know.
It's not like it has a life cycle of its own. Yeah, you could set that up, no? But it should come from the usage, because basically when you start teaching this to people in the end, if it doesn't work, people are going to find out very soon.
So
right?
somehow
so then you adapt it. Yeah, exactly. So then you adapt it. So every time that you run through the material, and you go through, people go through it, you're always improving on that material.
So it's okay to leave it as it is, and somehow you will discover that this needs to be checked, or this needs to be updated, or whatever. You do not need to take a lot of care about controlling every single aspect of this.
No, you could still have owners, and you could still, some companies have component owners, or have, like you could spread this, or have someone take ownership for the life cycle of whatever assets you're creating, right, for the organization. But that's not part of this. That's not what I'm describing here. Like you could do that either way, like if you have a library that all the teams are using, then you guys are the owners of that library. If it stops working, if there's any improvement, etc., you're the ones that are doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then says she has problems hearing you, but I think it's her connection. I was hearing you fine.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Perfect.
It's my connection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think
seems
it's your
so.
connection. It's your connection. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay.
No. All right, then I guess we are done for today. Thank you very much for your time, and see you on the next one then.